I've been hypnotized by the lights and a lot of other things that are going on in this world. Welcome back. You're watching the Kaiser Report. I'm John, coming to you on this Wednesday morning with a tidbit of news here and there, and maybe even an amusing story that we'll start out with this morning. There was a very aging farmer. He was like 83 years old, and he was wanting to put his potatoes in, but his younger son that used to help him with this was caught in a robbery and put in prison. So he's talking to his son on the prison phone, and he says to his son, I don't know that I'm going to get any potatoes or vegetables put in this year because I cannot plow up this field all by myself. And without you here, I think we're going to go without canning and having potatoes this year. So the boy says to him, Dad, you cannot touch that field. You cannot plow that field up. That's where I buried all the money. When a couple of days later, the FBI shows up with the police, and they dig up the entire field looking for the hidden money. Day goes by, and the son calls from prison and says, Dad, I've done what I could from here. It's plowed up. Go ahead and put in the potatoes. So I thought that was an amusing story. I heard it yesterday, and I just wanted to bring it to you all to have a little bit of a laugh here this morning. Speaking of going to jail, Hunter Biden is now in the hearing room under oath, and I guess answering a bunch of questions about what his involvement was in all of this stuff that went on. And hopefully they'll even ask a few things about what happened with the laptop stuff that was there, but I guarantee you they won't cover that. Getting into the Senate side of things, Mitch McConnell will step down as a Republican leader at the end of the year in November, stating that, he has turned 82 years old, and he has been there since 1980-something, and in 40 years was a long enough time. He has made it to Speaker of the House, was the longest sitting Speaker for the Senate, going back in history. However, did he do a good job at things? I really have a lot of reserve on that, and the people of Kentucky put him in there and expected him to do a job that may or may not have been done correctly. But anyway, that said, it will be interesting to hear what the transcripts of the Hunter Biden hearing comes out with today. Mitch McConnell, lovingly referred to by me as Mr. Turtleface, I think it's well time that he leaves that position and opens it for someone who will work with both sides of the aisle rather than just succumb to anything that the Democrats put in front of him and go from there. The down-ballot elections in this coming election are going to be very, very important as far as the Senate and Congress goes with regard to representation with people that are willing to work with both sides of the aisle, get along, get together, and fix the problems that the country is facing, which are numerous problems, and we've talked about this ad nauseum. I don't want to get into the border business again, but we know that both President Biden and past President Trump are going to visit in two sections of the border. Where Biden needs to be is where they're really pouring through right now, and a majority that are pouring through, I understand, are Chinese nationals, and they're coming through the California side. So where is he going? He's going to Brownsville, Texas, where Governor Abbott has fairly well done a good job at shutting down or at least stemming the flow of the migrants that are packed up and waiting to see what Biden is going to do if he does anything. My anticipation on Biden's involvement with the border is going to be that he's going to wait till the 11th hour before the elections, do something, and then claim that he's fixed the problems that the Republicans left him, which is an out-and-out lie, which he does on a daily basis, because we all know that the border was slowed down to a trickle. But when he took office, the first thing he did was take out this pen and sign an executive order canceling all of the Trump orders that were put in place to stem the tide of illegal flow of refugees and immigrants. And I can't call them immigrants and feel good about it, because they are refugees and they are criminals. Because when you cross that border illegally, you become a criminal. It's not allowed, never has been allowed, and yet this government, this administration, decided that they want 10 or 15 million people in this country, legal or illegal. They need the numbers for whatever reason, whether it's redistricting for votes or giving them voter cards. I'm not sure what's going on. None of us are, because it's all done behind closed doors in the middle of a Sunday night while a football game is going on. And then we're told that we have to give all this money and keep the border open for $5,000 a day. How ridiculous is that when you're looking at already 11 million people that have poured through the border illegally, unvetted, unchecked, and we don't know where half of them are. This is a sad situation, and you've heard me say this over and over again, as well as my colleagues on this platform and Rumble are talking about it ad nauseum. We have a problem with a president that cannot make the decisions. Whoever is behind him pushing this immigration problem should be taken to task and tried for it, because it's absolutely criminal what they've let happen. And Mayorkas and Biden have refused to do anything but let the flow keep on coming. And they're massing, because if by some stretch of the means this administration goes out, they know it's going to be shut off. So they'll, before the election, will be pouring through this border even more and more. And thank God we have 12 or 13 of the states whose governors are sending down to Texas and Arizona help to close down this illegal flow of migrants through these border passings and river passings. Governor Abbott has done a great job. Other governors are recognizing it, and why we can't get hold of this and make this happen is beyond me. But we'll see. It's a chilly situation. But wildfires in Texas right now are being whipped up by the wind. I'm not sure if this will damage the visits that both President Biden and past President Trump are making, but we'll see what comes out of mainstream media on it. Speaking of mainstream media, you don't hear very much about the death of this young nursing student in Atlanta, or in the Atlanta area, by this illegal refugee that was let out of jail in New York, so they didn't get him. The ICE could not get a stop or hold order on him because the law in New York says just, release him. So he has bludgeoned this girl to death, and the mayor of that city came out today to say, has nothing to do with immigration. It's the immigration laws. That is pure, unadulterated lying to the public, and they knew it, and they had the signs ready, and they took him to task on it and did not let him speak further. But it's like you would think he would be outraged that one of his citizens that this happened to is no longer with us. And this character, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they need to bring him to task on this. And to say that it's the immigration laws that, that caused all this, it's not. It's the laws that will not keep a criminal behind bars until ICE can come and decide whether or not he's here illegally and does he need to be deported to his own country. Well, guess what? Venezuela doesn't want them back. They emptied out their jails to our southern border, and they will not take them back. So where does he go? He should go to the death chamber for the murder of that young lady. That's hands down. When it's, he'll get a trial, I'm sure, and I don't see how he can defend against it based on his past record, both in Venezuela, New York, and now I understand Pennsylvania had him at one time as well. So what's going on with that? Anyway, weather here is unusually warm. They say there's some heavy winds coming through today with some thunderstorms, and then 25 tonight after it's been 60 here for the last couple of days, and they're expecting a flash freeze for the next couple of evenings, which will help keep the bugs down and help us, us people that plant gardens and all that. I know the government says that you shouldn't plant a garden because John Kerry says that it's ruining the environment for us to grow vegetables, so that's not a good thing. Well, bullshit. I think you need to put in a garden, and you need to learn how to can, and if you're not sure how to do it, you need to go on to YouTube and take a lesson on it. It's there, and it can happen. Thought somebody was knocking at the door there for a minute, but it's just the wind. I guess that wind is kicking up. Biden is in for his annual physical at Walter Reed Army Hospital today. They caught him getting on the helicopter this morning and said he was gone for his annual physical. I can't wait to see how they cover that mess up between the media and the administration that just wants to protect him at all costs and tell you how sharp he is. Watch the man walk. And if you don't believe that there's a problem there, your eyesight needs to be checked. But he's going for his physical, and he's going to come out and tell you how healthy he is and all this other stuff, and I'm sure that they'll all back that up. We told you about McConnell. Pope Francis, on the other hand, was taken to the hospital for a test, and they say that he has been suffering from the last week or so from flu-like symptoms. So we're watching that as well. So I guess Catholics all around the world will be praying this Lenten season for the Pope. I hope and wish him well. Let's see. Prince Andrew faces backlash after his appearance at King Constantine of Greece's funeral. Let's see what they say about that. The Duke of York, alongside his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, which they are back together from what I'm told, led a group of royals into the church service. And it was a Thanksgiving service honoring King Constantine, not a funeral of Greece. And it has people raising eyebrows. I don't know. I guess it's because of this Epstein connection that they're going on about this. Let the man alone. If he's done something wrong, he's been chastised for it. He paid his penalties, whatever. But I'm not too sure that half of the Epstein story has gotten out for real yet. And I'm sure we'll hear more and more on it. I know Whitney Webb on YouTube here, if you watch her channel, she's the most knowledgeable individual about the Epstein situations, and Ghislaine Maxwell as well. So if you want more information on that, I highly recommend that you look at Whitney Webb and see what she has to say. There's many, many, many interviews with her on that subject. So you can probably get that one directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And the Michigan results were as predicted. The 13% of the undecided that came out on Biden's side of the campaign were a direct result of the Israeli conflict with Hamas that's going on right now, and the Palestinian supporters such as Rashida Tlaib there has sparked a controversy against Trump's action in that particular skirmish that's going on right now with Israel. I'm sure that the government shutdown that's looming will be rectified somewhere along the line, getting more money for Mr. Zelensky along the way. I still would like somebody in the comments or otherwise to tell me why in the hell Chuck Schumer went to the Ukraine to promise anything. Who is he to be able to do that? And why is our Senate leader going to a foreign country making promises that is not in his purview to make? Especially when it comes to spending our tax dollars. It's hard to believe, but these things are happening. They're happening before our very eyes, and we need to wake up and we need to start making phone calls and writing letters to these people to let them know of either our support for or our displeasure in what's happening with regard to the Ukraine. And I'm sick and tired of hearing that Russia's the big enemy and we have to hate all Russians because this is going on with the Ukraine. The Ukraine has been corrupt since World War II or before. Actually, you can carry it back after the history lesson from Putin. You can carry it back to the First World War in the Tsarist Russia. They are not good people. I'm not talking about the citizenry. I'm talking about the corrupt politicians that are running the Ukraine, and Zelensky is one of them. Mark my words, it's going to come out sooner or later that there's been misappropriations of the funds that have been supplied to him throughout his begging efforts throughout the world, and us being the biggest saps of all by giving more money than was needed to a situation that cannot be won. If you listen to any of the military experts that know anything, they'll tell you it's a futile, expensive time, money, and lives that cannot be won. So why would we continue to dump our tax dollars into that situation or print more money to send them? It doesn't make any sense. But here's the problem with this administration. It's totally devoid of any common sense at all. There is no correct thinking in this administration. It is a carnival administration filled by people who don't belong in those positions, starting with Karine Jean-Pierre. And then I don't even want to get into the rest of the cabinet that's running around, some of them dressed up like women. It's ridiculous. Diversity hires are not the answer. The answer to our problems is hiring and voting in people that have the ability to do the job put before them by we the people who put them in that position. And for God's sake, get term limits and get them out of there in a reasonable amount of time. Don't let a Mitch McConnell sit there for 40-some more years doing damage, because this is what happens. Don't you want to retire after spending 40 years in that pressure cooker? Come on. Or as Joe would say, come on, man. Anyway, let's go with... it's come to a point where more and more redaction and suppression is being put out into the social media areas because they feel that we're letting you know too much of what's going on behind the curtain. And they're watching us, and they are hell-bent at getting you off the channel if you come out with anything that may be detrimental to their decision to shove this particular agenda down the American people's throats. We're wising up. A lot of people are waking up. There's generations that used to be very, very liberal that are now seeing that we don't need socialism and we don't need communism in this country to be the country that it was designed to be. This is a republic, a democratic republic that is run by the citizenry, the people who elect these people to do a job. They forget when they get there who they work for. And this has got to be brought up to the forefront, and we have to vote differently. We have to vet these candidates that are coming out, because they'll tell you anything when they're campaigning, but when they get behind that desk and get a pen in their hand, they're lost. Now, either they've been indoctrinated by somebody on their way in, hey, go along with this and you can get rich and do this and do that as we tell you to do. And these are why you don't need people hanging around for 40, 50 years. I mean, just look at Joe Biden. I mean, his entire life has been on the dole of the government, and he has no idea of what you and I have to go through to raise a family. You try to raise 4 and 5 children today and get them schooled properly, because you have to send them to private schools, because if you put them into the educational system that this government is running, you're in some serious trouble. So you have to get your kids educated, which costs money. And, I myself raised 5 children. I don't see how someone can do that today with the cost of things the way it is. Let's look at homeowners. They're decrying the increase in Florida. Let's look at Florida. The homeowners insurance is almost non-affordable. It's over, a couple of $1,000s a year on an average home. How do you do that? How do you add that into a budget of a family where the husband is working, the wife is working, and the children need daycare, the children need to go to schools, the children need clothes, and then we have food prices that are up 25 to 35% in most cases. Ask any one of these politicians what a quart of milk costs, and they can't tell you, because they don't know. But Nancy Pelosi can show you a refrigerator full of, premium ice cream and laugh at you. Well, she's made a fortune through insider trading of the stock market. When do these people get held accountable for the shifty crap that they've pulled on this society? It's not a good situation to be in. And I hate to bring all this bad stuff up, but it's there. It's in our face. It's getting worse. They're lying more now than ever. Look at the Michigan things yesterday. What does Nikki Haley think she's doing? It's crazy. but she wants to stay in there as a spoiler. She's got, people behind her shoving her. When you have a guy like Newsom and you have half the Democratic Party pushing for her to stay in, there's a reason for that. What's up? Ask yourself that question. She certainly doesn't bring anything but the old guard's idea of a politician to the table. We need a person in there that has been in business, have written paychecks for a bunch of people, and had the responsibility for those people's families on their plate all of their adult lives. These people are not, these career politicians bring nothing to the table but how can I get rich faster? We've seen it. We've heard about it. They want to say it's a conspiracy theory. It's not. It's the truth. This is what we have to live with since they've created the career politician. Get somebody in there that has been successful in life and then brings a talent to the chair that they're going to sit in, whether it's financial, whether it is bring a talent to the Congress, bring a talent to the Senate, and make the differences that we need to bring this country back around to where it should be and stop the divisiveness, stop the hate, and stop lying to the people of the United States. Stop indoctrinating young children so their thought processes are not formed correctly. This is what is going on with your school systems. This is another thing. Get involved in your communities. Get on the school boards. Get on local politics. Do something to make a difference. Not wait for the government to tell you what the differences are going to be and your choices will be. Because they don't get to tell you that. We tell them what we need. And they should carry our thoughts into that position and live with them. But instead they get in and get an agenda that has nothing to do with anything that may be happening. Just let's take the border, for instance. But beyond that, there's not a whole bunch more going on in and around the country today. We're waiting on the Hunter Biden. It should be really interesting when we see the transcripts, or if they allow us to know what went on in that room. We know that they came out of there feeling that they were lied to by Jim Biden, the president's brother, because his stories change every time that someone speaks to him about it. He has a different answer. And I'm sure that Hunter isn't going to be any better. But this moron comes out yesterday with the idiotic statement that his sobriety is a direct result of our democracy. And, I guess what he's saying is by upsetting him to make him go to these things, he could go back on his drug habit. And it will affect our democracy. Why? Because his father gets caught and he gets caught in lies? If you're going to use your drug habit to say you can't do this to me because I could go back on drugs and I'm trying so hard to stay sober, then there's a problem. And that ought to point out to you that the door he goes in and out of, I guess it's off the West Wing, is where they found the bag of cocaine. And then all of a sudden that investigation gets dropped. Well, we don't know where it came from. Well, let's just stop and think where it came from. Come on, you do not have to be a Rhodes Scholar to understand where that bag came from. So he's still at it, and he's now going to use his drug addiction to get him out of trouble. And he's gone, and they've got him the sharpest, best lawyer that Washington can come up with to go in there to that hearing with him this morning. And he had not a word to say to the reporters who were questioning him on the way in. So that's going to be the interest today. And that, coupled with the fact that we're 6 days away from Super Tuesday, where it's expected that Donald Trump will continue with the numbers that he has been getting, which was a fair romp in Michigan yesterday. And then the big news this morning on mainstream media is that Joe Biden won in Michigan. Come on. Who was he running against? Hey, how about if they would have let RFK come in, Jr., and see where Biden would end up if he was on that ticket? But they made sure he was off the Democratic ticket because Biden couldn't hold a candle to him. And I really like listening to him. And for whatever reason that he's not getting Secret Service protection and Nikki Haley is, that ought to tell you that they're afraid of him. They're probably just as afraid of him as they are of Trump, to tell you the truth. Anyway, enough said on that. We're going to probably get out. I'm trying to get that interview set up with our realtor here in this area to bring you some news on what's going on in the housing market. Now, what I heard yesterday from Dan at I Allegedly out in California, he was out yesterday with a foreclosure agent, and we watched them paper up, I think it was 8 houses yesterday that went under the Foreclosure Act, and then an auction for one that took place. But these houses that are overinflated out there, where a small house is going for $1.1 million, it's pretty hard for somebody to come in and not lowball that in an auction, on a foreclosure auction. But in this case, on that one that I watched yesterday, that went back to the bank because the bank couldn't take that much less for that house. People, for some reason, in the Orange County area of California, have stopped making payments on these homes, and or cannot get insurance to cover those homes, which alerts the bank that you don't have homeowners insurance, and you're living in $1.5 million house. You better have some means of protecting that investment. So foreclosures out there are happening, but I'm told here that house buying is at an all-time high. So I'm anxious to get this realtor to sit down with me, and we'll take a look at what's really happening in the market. Not that we should compare to the West Coast, because we can't. But I've noticed in the Appalachian region, we've had a lot of movement from Californians and New Yorkers. New Jersey are coming down here. We do not have an income tax in the state of Tennessee, and it's very attractive for these people because they're being taxed to death in those particular areas. So when we get the realtor to sit down for an interview, we'll get the in-depth scoop on what's going on in the housing market in and around the tri-state area here, Southwest Virginia, Tennessee, and bits of North Carolina that are all on the border right here. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll keep you posted on that. And I should get a couple of shorts out to you before too long as well. And I want to thank all of my subscribers for tuning in and being such a help. I mean, our subscriber count went up dramatically in the last couple of days, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And we'll be bringing you more and more content. for your efforts in that. And that said, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're going to bring you some really nice walking tours come springtime when everything is in growth. And we have some wonderful towns all around us here that have historical not only buildings but businesses that we can go in and take a look at. And I'm excited about doing that. And I think that all in all, we're going to have a great spring and summer. We're going to be inundated with all of these politicians telling us stories, but we're going to keep the faith. We're going to pray that our leaders come to some common sense solutions to things that are going on, and we're going to pray for each other, love each other, and understand that we're all in the same boat, and it doesn't matter. You have to get on your knees once in a while and thank God for what we have and protect what we have to the best of our ability while also being kind to one another. And this is a very important thing. Let's open our hearts to people. Not all of these immigrants are bad people. There are a bunch of bad people that use this ability to get into this country for nefarious reasons, but there are probably a lot of good families that we would love to get to know. So with that, I wish you all a great day, and I hope you will stay with this channel and wait for us to bring you some really good things. And until that, I'm going to dance on out of here to this wonderful music, and hope you all have a great Wednesday. Bye-bye now.